Um, Welcome, everyone. Welcome to tryScrum's webinar series 17, powered by tryScrum Studio in partnership with Product Owner Studio. Today, we have I should call the person we look up to in the product management world, Roman Pichler, talking about product owner tips. I'm pretty excited to hear out from himself. Welcome, Roman.
Thank you, Arun. And thanks for the kind introduction.
Okay. I'll go on to give some more logistical informations. All your microphones would be muted, and all your questions to be posted in the Q&A window. We have marked it. Please do not post it in the chat window. We may not be able to accommodate it. It is good if you post it in the Q&A window. And we'd be taking 15 minutes from the session or 3 slides into the session. We'll be taking some top 3 questions, and then we'll try to end the session, and then we'll take the rest of the questions as well. We'll accommodate as many questions as possible. In case we could not accommodate it, we're trying to respect the time box, right? Sorry if there is any inconvenience of not taking your questions. And about us, tryScrum, we are a management consulting firm. Our mission is to humanize organizations. Right? We are a PTA network member of Scrum.org, and we are a Scrum Alliance member organization. We offer CAL-educated programs from Scrum Alliance, and we also offer coaching programs on CSPO as well as CSM from Scrum Alliance. And we are an IC Agile member organization as well. And then we run 3 studios. Scrum Master Studio for the people part, Product Owner Studio for the product, and Agile Leadership Studio for the leaders. We are one of the finalists nominees in the World Agility Forum for the community organization. Thanks for all your support. Without all your support, we wouldn't have been nominated for that forum. And without further delay, I'm going to introduce our speaker, Roman Pichler. He's a product management author, consultant, and a trainer. He's a leading product management expert specialized in digital products and agile practices. He teaches a wide range of courses in the product management. You can visit romanpichler.com to know more about his courses. And he's an author of 3 books in the product management and also a book on Scrum. I've posted the pictures of the product management here. Again, he writes so many blogs, a repository of blogs in his site, romanpichler.com. Please visit to get used to it. And welcome, Roman, again. Over to you.
Well, thank you. Thanks, Arun. So I'll try and share my screen.
Yes, please go on.
Oh, this is strange. I'll try again. Why can't I see it? So where is Zoom gone? Okay, now I can see my slide deck. Cool. Brilliant. So hopefully you can all see a slide that says product owner tips. And as Arun's already kindly said, that's the topic I'd like to talk about today. Now, the product owner role has been around for quite some time, but I find there's still quite a bit of confusion about the nature of the role, what the role is truly all about, and how it can and maybe should be applied. So I'm trying to offer some guidance on these questions. And to start with, I'd like to offer a quote from the latest version of the Scrum Guide that was just released a couple of days ago. And in it, it says, the product owner is accountable for maximizing the value of the product. And that's something that Scrum has said now pretty consistently for a number of years, saying, you know, the product owner is the person whose responsibility it is to achieve product success or maximize the value that the product creates. Now, you know, it's superficially, but if you look at this superficially, you know, at face value, it seems, you know, fairly straightforward. Yeah, just maximize the value of the product. What's the big deal? But I think it's worthwhile to reflect on what a product is and what it means to own a product. After all, the role is called the product owner. And so a product for me is an asset, an entity that creates some tangible value for users, possibly customers, and the business. And I find it's worthwhile to reflect on this because most companies that I've worked with and worked for didn't have a single shared definition of what a product is. And that's particularly prominent when it comes to digital products. So often there's quite a bit of confusion in different teams and different groups, different departments within the same business have different ideas of what a product is. But if there's confusion about what a product is, then there's likely to be also confusion about what it means to own a product. So I really do think that's worthwhile clarifying. And by value, I mean here that the product addresses a specific problem or offers a specific benefit. So for instance, that could be to help people eat more healthily, and more specifically, maybe to reduce the risk that middle-aged men like myself get type 2 diabetes. And the business benefit could be to open up a new revenue source, or maybe if it's not a revenue generating product, to market and sell other products. Excuse me, or to reduce cost, for instance, if it's more a traditional IT application. But again, for a piece of software to qualify as a product, you have to be able, I would suggest, to identify user, possibly customer-facing value, and specifically state that, and also identify, determine the value that the product creates towards the business, and again, be able to specifically state that. So that for me is a product. And I'll sort of get back to what a product is and what it means to own a product compared to other assets shortly. But before I do that, I'd like to then go back to the product owner role, at least the product owner in a Scrum context, the Scrum product owner. And for me, it's the person that has to own the product in its entirety. So if we ask somebody to be responsible for maximizing the value that the product creates or for achieving product success, well, then really, I think we have to give that person ownership of the product in a holistic way, and not only ask that person to look after a product backlog, manage a product backlog, and write user stories, but empower the person and help the person make the necessary strategic product decisions. And I'm emphasizing this requirement, this aspect so much because I often experience in my work that product owners don't have that authority, don't have that level of empowerment. So you may know that the product owner, or you might know that the product owner was originally not called product owner in Scrum, but product manager. But then in the late 90s, when the Scrum terminology as we know it today was largely formed, one of the Scrum founders, Ken Schwaber, who's really coined most of the Scrum terms, the Scrum terminology, changed the role name from product manager to product owner in order to reflect the level of empowerment that the product owner needs in order to succeed. Unfortunately, that got a little bit lost over time, I think. But again, I'll try and get back to that distinction, product owner, product manager shortly. Cool. So now, if that's how it is, if a product owner is somebody who should own a product top to bottom, holistically, strategic decisions, tactical product decisions, then there are quite a few people who work in product management and exercise product roles, but aren't necessarily product owners in that sense, in a Scrum sense, or what I see as the Scrum product owner, as I just described it. And in fact, it quite often happens to me that I meet somebody and the person says, "Hey, I'm a product owner," and after a short conversation, I find out, oh yeah, actually the person owns. It's been a long week. Owns much more than a product, or actually owns only a part of the product. And so a Scrum product owner owns a product holistically in the sense I've just sketched it. But sometimes, particularly when the product is large, it makes sense to involve other people who share ownership and then take on responsibility for parts of that product. And one way to do this is to ask somebody to look after a feature, an end user facing capability. So I sort of briefly mentioned a healthy eating product as an example. A feature of a healthy eating product could be a dashboard that allows me to see how my eating behavior has developed over the past few weeks and if the trend is positive or not. So somebody could own that feature. And the difference is that the product owner ultimately is responsible for the commercial success of the product. So it has to ensure that the product creates the desired value towards the market, the users and customers, whoever the users and customers might be, and towards the business, right? Whereas a feature owner is responsible for maximizing the value that the feature creates. So a feature owner would still need knowledge about the market and the users, the domain, but not so much about, say, the business model and financial forecasting and those techniques. And so being a feature owner can be a very rewarding, can also be a very challenging job, and it can also be a good way to get into product management, for junior product people to work together with others on a larger product. The second option is to organize not around end user facing product parts, features, but architecture building blocks. And then I call an individual who looks after such an architecture building block, and that could be, say, a payment system, it could be the persistence layer. I call such a person a component owner. I generally like to keep the number of component owners comparatively small. But again, as I said, sometimes it does make sense to have somebody who takes ownership of that component. And again, I would look at the product component owner as a product management role, somebody who helps with product ownership, but it's an even more focused role, and a person who plays that role typically needs in-depth technical knowledge. And again, can be a good way for people with a technical background to get into product management and maybe start working as a component owner. And so the responsibilities between those three roles are then shared when it comes to the product. Scrum product owner owns the product, the overall product has the overall product responsibility. Feature and component owner own the relevant parts. Now, that's not the only way to share product ownership for a product, or ownership for a product. An alternative way is to split ownership according to strategic versus tactical aspects. And that's what SAFe does. SAFe stands for Scaled Agile Framework. In SAFe, there is another product owner, the SAFe product owner. Now, despite the fact that this role is called product owner, which I think in hindsight is a bit unfortunate, the role is rather different from the Scrum product owner. So a SAFe product owner would not own a product holistically, but would rather look after the product backlog, or in fact, part of the product backlog, what I think SAFe calls a team backlog, and work with one or more development teams. And I'll say a little bit more about the difference between a SAFe product owner and the Scrum product owner shortly. I keep saying this, right? I'll talk more about this shortly. I will, I promise. So now we've got two products here, and then it might make sense to consider extracting shared assets into a supporting product, a platform. And if that's what we do, then it may make sense to treat that platform, at least at some point in time, as a product in its own right. And so it may then be useful to have somebody who looks after that platform product, and have a platform owner. That's very much like the Scrum product owner on this picture here. The only difference is that a platform owner would look after a technical supporting product, and so needs in-depth technical skills, whereas here the Scrum product owner in this picture would look after an end user facing product, but you don't necessarily have to make that distinction. Now we've got three products, and three products make a little product portfolio, a little group of products. Some people talk about a product family or product suite. And then it may make sense to have somebody who is in charge of that portfolio. Not necessarily if it's three products, but if you work for a larger organization, then you're likely to have bigger product portfolios, and some of you may have dedicated product portfolio owners. If you work for a small business or a mid-sized business, then sometimes the head of product plays that role, in addition to being the line manager of the product people in the organization. Are there any questions so far, Arun?
There is one, Roman, so it's from, shall I take it?
Yes, please.
Okay. Are tactical product owners essentially playing the business analyst role?
Nice question. I don't know. So I do know that business analyst tasks, activities, responsibilities have been standardized to a certain extent in recent years, and there's a body of knowledge that sort of describes what a business analysis is. But in practice, that's at least my experience, I find that how the role is applied varies greatly. So I've worked with business analysts who were more like architects, system architects, and I've worked with business analysts who were essentially acting as product managers, product owners within organizations where no product management existed. But if you're an analyst, a business analyst who's more focused on, say, eliciting requirements and describing requirements, then yeah, being a safe product owner could be a good path into product ownership. So it could be working as a feature owner. Yeah. I promised to say a few more words about the safe product owner, and in order to do so, in contrast to two product owner roles, I'll borrow a simplified version of Mike Cohen's planning onion. So we've got here vision, strategy, and tactics. Vision is the ultimate purpose, the reason why your product exists, the positive change it should bring about. So I say healthy eating. And strategy will be the path that you've chosen in order to achieve your vision. So maybe building a mobile app aimed at middle-aged men who, the benefit would be to reduce the risk of developing type 2 diabetes, and for the business to open up a new revenue stream. And maybe standout features, that's something I would put in a strategy as well, would be, I don't know, seamless integration with smart scales and smart watches, for instance. Yeah. And then the tactics will be essentially the product backlog. That's the way I would look at it. The detailed product decisions, what we need in order then to execute the strategy. So yeah, the product backlog with all the user stories. Yeah. Now, a Scrum product owner, as I've suggested earlier, should have holistic ownership or full stack ownership, really own the product top to bottom, champion the vision, lead the effort to find a valid strategy, and then evolve the strategy over time in order to make the product successful initially and then keep it successful. But a Scrum product owner should also guide the tactical work by making sure there is a product backlog, by making sure that the product backlog is filled with meaningful items, and maybe also helping to describe some of those items. Yeah. I'll get back to that again shortly. However, a safe product owner, and this is, I'm not trying to be judgmental here, by the way, or make anybody feel bad or uncomfortable, but I'm just kind of trying to share my perspective. A safe product owner is more focused, as I said earlier, on the tactics, the product backlog or parts of a product backlog, on working with the development team. And so it has partial ownership. And that means there has to be another role. And in safe, that's my understanding, that's largely the safe product manager, who then takes on the responsibility for strategic product decisions. Yeah. So those are the two product owner roles. They are rather different, but unfortunately, both roles are called product owner, and I think that explains to a certain extent why there's quite a bit of confusion about what is that product owner and what should a product owner do. I think there might be more questions, Arun.
Yes, there are. The questions from Fadley: how are these product owners collaborate each other on making decisions? Are those non-Scrum product owners like component owner or platform owner or the developers in the Scrum team?
Cool. Yes, nice question. So I think the question relates to this slide. So yes. I'm going back. I would look here at the feature owner and component owners really as full-time product people, generally speaking. With the component owner, it's debatable. The component owner might also be able to help out a little bit on the team that develops the component, depending on the size of the component, depending on the size of the job. A feature owner, I would view as somebody who really works as a product person. And for me, that's generally speaking a full-time job, looking after one or more major features. Yeah. But I would both roles consider to be product management type roles. Component owner is quite a technical role, but still it's about making product related decisions and decisions about a product part and contributing. And I should have probably mentioned that the feature owner and component owner, what I like to suggest is that the individuals who play those roles do contribute to strategic decisions, do participate in product discovery and strategy work. Yeah, so not just kind of, exclusively focused on their features or components and on the execution, but also participate in the discovery and strategic work.
Yeah, thanks for that, Roman. I have one more question. old school products, that is motor insurance or life insurance, do they still have the product managers and product owners that are responsible for distribution of the product through a digital channel?
Well, I think when you have, I've worked with a number of banks and insurance companies, and, I think it's helpful to distinguish between the products that generate revenue, that's an insurance policy, for instance, or a financial product, and then the products that support those revenue generators. And so, yeah, usually I would say it makes sense to have a person in charge of the revenue generating product, the insurance policy, or the finance product. It could be a mortgage, for instance, and then have somebody in charge of the digital product, or have people in charge of the digital assets that are necessary then in order to provide an insurance policy, allow people like you and me to purchase and find out about different insurance options, and then purchase an insurance policy and administer it. So that simply what we have is kind of a hierarchy of products. We have revenue generating products, and then supporting products, and then we might even have third tier products. That the supporting digital products are based on, say, internal platforms that encapsulate shared assets and help the development teams build those supporting products. So what can be quite helpful really is to come up with a little kind of portfolio map. I call it a portfolio map, and take the perspective of an end user or customer and say, how do customers, end users, interact with the various assets that we have? What are the key user journeys? And use that in order to determine what are our products, which assets are products and which assets are not products, and then which assets are the revenue generating products, because I think these are the ones that always deserve particular attention, right?
Yeah, thanks for that, Roman. So I have one more question. Probably I can take it later. Or what do you think? Yeah,
I'm easy. I mean, if it sort of fits into what we've discussed so far, I'm happy to take it now.
It's more about, we can have it. We talked about vision, So are product vision and product goal different?
Are product vision and product goal different? Yes. I'm just trying to remember if I've included a slide in the backup of the slide deck or not, but it might be best if I just try and communicate it verbally rather than me jumping in forwards, through the slide deck here. So I like to distinguish a number of different roles, product-related roles. I find it, generally speaking, very helpful to work with a vision, as I explained here. And then I find it also beneficial to state user customer goals and business goals in the strategy. So, when you look at a strategy template like my product vision board, then you'll find a section in there that says needs. Well, the needs really are the place to describe the primary user or customer goal. And then you'll find another section that says business goals. Well, that's about the business goals. And so I like to generally derive user and business goals from the vision. Now, the trouble is that these user and business goals can be pretty big, right? So I might say the goal is to help middle-aged men, like my age group, I don't know, 40 to 50, 55, to reduce the risk of getting type 2 diabetes. Now, that's probably specific enough to describe the direction we want to go into, and describe sort of the value that the product should provide towards the users. But it's still pretty big. I mean, I think it's too big to now start building a first version, an MVP. And that's where product goals come in handy. That's where product goals are very helpful. So I like to take then the strategic user and business goals and break them down into more specific, measurable product goals. And I would expect that a product goal, I mean, you don't have to do it that way. So, the latest version of the Scrum guide, again, just came out a few days ago, introduces product goals, and you don't have to follow my advice. I mean, for whatever reason, I mean, I've been advocating using product goals for many years now. And so my suggestion is, my advice is that a product goal should cover, generally speaking, cover sort of a 2 to 3 months time frame. And sometimes it can make sense to extend it to 6 months, but generally speaking, I'd say 2 to 3 months. And the benefit of that is that you then really have really nice, specific, measurable goals where you can formulate some clear criteria, some clear metrics or success criteria that tell you, have I reached this goal or not? And then I like to put those product goals on a product roadmap. Yeah. And that provides then an umbrella for the product backlog. And it kind of connects the product backlog to a higher level strategy. So that's the way I like to do it, and that's how I described it in my book Strategize. And you can find a number of blog posts on my website. I've also talked about goals and goal setting and product-related goals, and in fact product goals in my latest book, How to Lead in Product Management, because I really believe that leading through goals, and particularly using shared goals to align and guide the stakeholders and development teams, is crucial for us as product people. It gives that necessary direction, it gives that necessary alignment, and at the same time, if we get them right, it offers the desired and necessary autonomy for the stakeholders and the development teams to do their work. So it really helps us strike that balance between alignment, you could also say control, and autonomy, right? So yeah, certainly worthwhile for those of you who work as Scrum product owners, or own a product, work as product managers, to reflect on what are the goals that I use in order to evolve my product, progress my products. Do I have the right goals in place? Is there an opportunity to simplify the goals that I use, or maybe add some goals? And are the goals understood, and are they accepted? Are they supported by the key stakeholders and the development teams? And if that's not the case, what can I do in order to generate the necessary buy-in? Yeah. So thank you for that question. As you can tell, I like to talk about goals. So I'll move on and talk a little bit about right interactions. And I think for me, that's another kind of piece of the puzzle. I think it's important to understand how should the product owner role be positioned. So I like to use a Venn diagram that's loosely based on Martin Erickson's definition of what product management is. So here we have the users and customers. Here we have the business stakeholders. I also refer to the business stakeholders as key stakeholders. So for a commercial product, that'd be somebody from, say, marketing, sales, support, possibly operations or finance. So these are the individuals whose support you need in order to progress the product, in order to offer the product. And of course, one or more development teams. Now, a Scrum product owner sits here at the center of these groups. So for me, a Scrum product owner should have direct contact with users and customers, at least selected users and customers. And the rule of thumb that I like to suggest is meet users and customers face to face at least once every quarter, at least once every 3 months. The reason for that is that it's really helpful. I'd say it's crucial to meet the beneficiaries of the product in order to be able to truly understand their needs and be able to empathize with them. Yeah, I would hope that you have analytics tools available to see how people use your product, and what features they interact with, what the main user journeys are, where drop-off points are, and so forth. But I can't empathize with data. Data only tells me so much, and to get the full picture, I really do think you need to be able to talk to users and observe how users use your product or a competitor product. So, anything you can do to, as I said, meet real users, be it via a video call, be it by visiting them, if that's possible again, will be extremely beneficial for you to help you move your product forward and discover opportunities to improve it, maybe add brand new features, or change the user experience, or possibly even ideas for a completely new product. Yeah. And the other thing I wanted to say here is I've met product owners who were very comfortable with dealing with development teams, but not so much with business stakeholders and customers and users. And that's cool because, we all have different backgrounds. There is no standard way to become a Scrum product owner. But I think over time, it's good to build up the necessary skills and confidence to be able to speak with the business stakeholders and again, interact with users and customers. The same is true for those of you who are more comfortable talking to users, customers, and business stakeholders and think like, oh my God, these techies. And then it's maybe something you'd like to work on. Yeah. And then right leadership focus. So I notice that it's not uncommon for Scrum product owners to do a lot of things, and quite often too many things. And I think that can be detrimental. It can damage our health, and it can make it really hard to effectively look after the product. So here we have the Scrum product owner, the development team, and the Scrum master. And in fact, I should have, according to the latest Scrum guide, to be fully compliant, I should have written developers. There is no development team anymore, but hey, things change every now and then. And I think we all understand what a development team is. At least my intention was to say here, it's a group of people who form a self-organizing cross-functional group. So we've got the 3 Scrum roles here. And the idea, as I'm sure you know, in Scrum is that the individuals interact with each other in a trustful and respectful manner so it can collaborate effectively. Now, I would suggest that the job of a Scrum product owner is to offer leadership, product leadership to the development team and the Scrum master. And that means ensure that there is an inspiring vision, there is there's an effective, validated product strategy and an actionable product roadmap with the right product goals on there. That there's a product backlog and that the product backlog is prioritized, and that you integrate the business stakeholders, the key stakeholders in the product discovery and the product development work, and maybe do some community building there, develop and maintain the relationships to the stakeholders. But the trouble is that it's not uncommon for me to see Scrum product owners who help out in the development team, maybe because the development team members don't have all the necessary skills. And so, product owner maybe helps out with some of the UX work. And even more frequently, or because the development team members say, you know what, product owner, you're the product owner, right? We are the development team. So therefore, you give us the user stories, and they better be fully spec'd, right? Because otherwise we can't write any code. And so expect to be fed with beautiful, amazing, and spec'd out detailed user stories. And then, quite often I find that product owners don't have Scrum masters. So there's simply no Scrum master. Or if there's a Scrum master, the Scrum master is not sufficiently available or not adequately qualified. And what that means is that suddenly now the Scrum product owner takes on some of the work of the development team or some of the work of the Scrum master. But that makes a challenging, multifaceted job even harder, right? And so your chances then to succeed as a product owner in this environment are severely reduced. And I don't think it's fair to expect that product owners can do a great job in such an environment. So for me, what the development team should offer is design and technology leadership. So design is UX design, user experience design, but also architecture design, and technology leadership in terms of then choosing the right technologies and making the right detailed design decisions. So UX design belongs to that responsibility. All the development and architecture decisions, including testing. And I mentioned earlier, it's a self-organizing team. So people should be empowered and able to choose how much work they can do in a sprint, what needs to be done in order to achieve a sprint goal, and how that is done, and how people work with each other, right? And the job of the Scrum Master should be to offer process and people leadership. So I coach the Scrum product owner and the development team, but also the stakeholders in the wider organization, and help people collaborate and facilitate organizational change and tackle organizational impediments. And that could be that maybe the Scrum product owner isn't sufficiently empowered, or I don't know, that the development team members don't have the right infrastructure, the right tools to get on with their job. There are a few shared responsibilities, and that is user research. I see as a shared responsibility between the development team and the Scrum product owner. And that's really beneficial to sort of share that job, because that allows the development team members to understand more about the users and customers in the market, which means that over time, as the Scrum product owner, you can then maybe work with more coarse-grained user stories, and maybe the development team will be comfortable over time to take on some of that refinement work, or just, again, work with more coarse-grained stories, right? A sprint goal selection and agreeing on a sprint goal should be truly a shared responsibility, and also working on the product backlog together. And again, that helps transferring knowledge from the Scrum product owner to the development team. So again, rather than feeding your development team forever with detailed user stories and essentially being being stuck in a situation where you are a user story writer, a product backlog scribe, item scribe, try and transfer knowledge into the development team, mentor and coach the development team, help people acquire the necessary understanding of about the market, the domain, and techniques such as user story writing, and empower people thereby to truly own the solution, truly own the product details. And if you don't have a Scrum Master, then you consider what the right course of action is. But rather than covering the role over an extended period of time, I would suggest that you allow that impediment to become visible and painful. And I know that can be tough, and I know that may take quite a bit of courage. But if you cover the Scrum Master role on an extended basis, right, and it looks like to your boss, it looks like he's sort of coping okay, what is then the incentive for the company to hire another Scrum Master? Everything seems to be fine. So yeah, focus on the product, manage the product, lead the product. Do not lead or manage the development team, and don't manage the development process. Yeah, leave the development side to the development team, and leave the process to the Scrum Master. That's my advice. And then finally, this is my last proper slide. It's helpful to have the right skills to be an effective Scrum product owner. So those are tactical skills around the product backlog and product backlog prioritization techniques, maybe things like user story writing skills, maybe working with user models like personas, using validation techniques to understand if a new or enhanced feature would make sense. So knowing when to use a product demo, when to use a usability test, when to use an early release or use A/B testing, those kind of things. Maybe knowing a little bit about the technologies that are being used, depending on how technical the product is that you look after. But as I've mentioned a few times, I think for Scrum product owners to be effective, you should also know about the product strategy and take on strategic responsibilities. Therefore, you need the right strategic skills around product strategy, product roadmap, business model, financial forecasting, product discovery, and product lifecycle management. And finally, the hard skills I find are only get you so far, and aren't really truly effective if you lack the right people and leadership skills. So those are things around goal setting along the lines already briefly discussed, but then also trust building and empathizing with people, the ability to truly listen, to deeply or actively listen to individuals, to make effective decisions together, collaborative decision making, or dealing with disagreement, dispute, and conflict, which is natural in product management. I mean, as a Scrum product owner, we work with diverse groups of people. So disagreement and conflict, just happens. So learning to deal with it and learning to use it creatively, constructively, as a source of creativity, I think is going to be very beneficial. So to wrap up, be clear on what you own. Is it a product, feature, component? Do you have full stack ownership, holistic ownership, or you're more focused on the tactics and the execution? And for me, the Scrum product owner is a product management role, so requires or benefits from having the right product management skills. And finally, the specific titles and roles that we have shouldn't really matter so much. What if I call a product manager, if I call a product owner, if we call a feature owner X, Y, Z, ultimately, I think what counts is the good that we do for the users in our businesses. And with these wise words, I'd like to say thank you for your attention. So you can find more information about the product owner role and product management in general, as Arun's already kindly pointed out on my website. And then again, Arun's already shown these a number of books. I'd like to briefly draw your attention to my latest book, How to Lead in Product Management, particularly when you're interested in goals and goal setting, might be worth to check out. And I'm very much looking forward to more questions now. But if for whatever reason your question doesn't get answered, don't be shy. You can always reach out to me via email. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that, Romil. So I have quite a few questions lined up.
Cool.
Rahul asks, any tips on coaching large organizations transitioning to Agile? Example, what kind of roles can become PO?
Okay, cool. So when you are involved in an Agile transition, then my advice is to kind of divide it into at least two main challenges. One challenge is around establishing an Agile way of working, around that, helping people embrace Agile values, the Agile values, and understand the Agile principles, and then practice specific Agile practices and specific techniques. But then alongside it, and that's the second challenge, establish an effective product function and establish effective product ownership. Now, the two things are related, but for me, the product ownership, the product management piece really deserves some specific attention. When I reflect on companies I've worked with, say in banking, generally finance or in insurance or travel or retail or media and publication, in all those industries, traditionally there is no product management, certainly not product management for digital products. And so then establishing effective product owners and effective product ownership means that some of the departments that used to hold the product's decision-making authority will have to let go of that, and that is that often requires some form of organizational development and change. So it's something I would really kind of address explicitly and think about how can we approach it and what should come first, or should we attempt and do it together, introducing Agile practices and establishing a product management function. But it's really something that I would kind of see as two challenges, separate but related challenges. I don't know if that was helpful.
Okay. Next question. In Scrum Guide 2020, it says the product goal is the long-term objective for the Scrum team. They must fulfill one objective before taking on next. The measurements are typically lagging indicators. So how do we determine success or abandonment without a waiting period in between? Or do we start work beyond MVPs immediately, only to find out later the MVP itself isn't right?
Right. Let me just quickly see. I've stopped the share and see if I have anything here that. Oh yes, I do. So I'll share this slide with you now. So the slide that you're looking at is called Roman's product planning model. And in a way, it tries to, what I'm trying to do is I'll try and build on what I said earlier, sort of the goals that I like to use in order to describe where I'd like to take a product, what the product is all about, and how I'd like to progress a product, and align and guide development teams and stakeholders. So vision, we've talked about the vision. We've briefly talked about a product strategy. So that's the approach to realize the vision, make the product successful. And there are a number of things that I would see in there, and again, I'd like to draw your attention to the needs/user goals and the business goals. And then, as I briefly explained earlier, what I do is I take that high-level product strategy, assuming it's been validated, and that means it's been sufficiently de-risked, and it no longer contains any significant assumptions or significant big risks. So I'm pretty sure, and I've got data to show it, that I've nailed the user goals, the needs. I've chosen the right needs, the right user goals, right? And so the value proposition is correct. It's the right market, the right target group. It's the right standout features. And the business goals are meaningful and they can be achieved. So there's a business model behind it that allows me to monetize the product in one way or another. Okay, so we've got a validated product strategy. Then I translate it into a series, and I'd like to stress again, a series of product goals. Now, the Scrum Guide doesn't say this, and you don't have to do it that way. The minimum you need is one product goal, and as you rightly said, that would be for a brand new product, the MVP. Sometimes you can't look beyond the MVP, then that's where you should stop, and you should just create essentially your product goal that says, this is the benefit, this is the value, this is the outcome we want to create with the MVP. But for me, a product goal is about value. It's about the benefit that the product should create, right? But often it is possible that you look a little bit further and you say like, well, maybe we can identify the product goals for the next, say, 12 months or so, maybe 9 months, you know? And so I would then identify those product goals and I would list them on a product roadmap so that it is cohesive. There's a cohesive narrative and a logical progression of the product is described by those goals and by the product roadmap. Yeah. So in addition to those product goals, I also then state some dates or timeframes and selected features and metrics, you know, that help me understand if the goals can be met. And then I use an individual product goal, and that's very much what the Scrum Guide suggests, at least my understanding, in order to derive the right product backlog items. Yeah. And so if you want to look a little bit more into the tools that I've developed over the years, you can consider using my product vision board or experiment with it to describe vision and product strategy. And I've developed a template for a goal-oriented product roadmap that allows you to put your goals on there, your product goals, and really treats them as in a very prominent manner, hence the term goal-oriented product roadmap. Again, you can download that from my website, and I've described those structures in my book, Strategize. There are lots of articles, free articles available on my website that talk more about it. There's some videos available on YouTube as well, so go and check it out. Again, Scrum has always been a very simple, very focused framework, and I think that the founders have done a great job to keep it that way. And so it'll be up to you to decide how you want to use the product goals. I think they're a great addition, but then I'm likely to say so because I've been advocating product goals for many years now. So for me, this is like, yeah, great. Just like the sprint goal, saying, it should be more about the why than the what. I've been teaching this for many, many years. So it's like, yeah, great that, these insights are now finally being reflected in the Scrum Guide. So I think it's very good. I think it's very positive.
That's pretty elaborate. Thanks for that answer, Roman. So I have one more question related to that. Any typical time frame you suggest for product goals? I guess you said 3 months. So you want to add
my
more?
suggestion. Yeah, that's my. I mean, it's really. I mean, one of the things I like about SAFe is the idea of a release train and the suggestion to create a steady release cadence. So in that can make a lot of sense, particularly once you're sort of a little bit more, once you've got a product out there, and particularly say you've achieved product market fit and you're into the growth stage. And so you're really now focusing on improving existing features and adding new features in order to, keep a lead over the competition. Yeah. And then it can make a lot of sense to say like, okay, we'll try and bring our release cadence down to 2 months or something, possibly even 6 weeks. And so you can then choose product goals for a 6 week or 2 months time frame. But of course, you don't have to do it that way. But I mean, generally, it goes back to the good old days of extreme programming. I think the second edition of extreme programming had a practice that was called quarterly releases. And I've always thought that's a really neat idea. And I think I've sort of at least touched upon it in my book, Agile Product Management with Scrum, I believe. Because if you have a quarterly goal and if you deliver at least once a quarter, I think that creates a lot of healthy focus for development teams, and it avoids that we have these ground plans and these ground structures and these ground architectures, but it takes forever to make any progress, and that it reduces the risk of over engineering. I think it keeps things real. So, that's why I like to say, like, maybe every three months or so, maybe you can bring it down to 2 months, but it'll very much depend on where your product is in its life cycle stage. That was what I was sort of indicating earlier. And it'll also depend on the technologies that you use, and it'll depend on the market. I mean, I remember, without wanting to go off too much on a tangent, a number of years ago, doing a piece of work for a major telco company, and they were releasing for the product that I was kind of helping out with. They were releasing every 6 months, and I said to them, "Wow, that's quite long timeframes. Couldn't you bring that down?" And they said to me, "Well, we'd love to, but our customers aren't willing to do that because they need to do some integration work on their side. We haven't been able really to ease that load for them. So therefore, they're not willing to take updates any more frequently." So again, look at where your product is in its life cycle, what you want to do with it, the technologies, the market, your customers, and then decide what is the right release cadence. And then also then, if you work with major releases, you can tie a product goal to a major release. But again, you don't have to do it, and the Scrum Guide doesn't suggest it. And I think that's great. So you've got a lot of flexibility there.
Yeah, thanks for that, Roman. So I have one more question related to the product goal. If the product goal becomes obsolete and the sprint goal is under that, can the active sprint be canceled by the product owner?
Yes, I'd say so. I mean, so for me, you can sort of, I don't know if you can see in this picture, but I mean, for me, I'll tell you what, I'll stop this share and I'll show one more picture from our website. Do we have time?
We have 7 more minutes. Yeah.
Where am I? So I'll just try and find a picture. I think that'll make it easier for me to describe it, as you've got lots of great questions around product goals. So here we are. So I just need to try and share my screen again. Share screen. So hopefully you can see my Safari now. Can I make this bigger? I should be able to, shouldn't I? Yes. So here are the goals that I've mentioned now a number of times, depicted as a hierarchy of cascading goals. So they're called cascading goals because they're connected, they're systematically linked. The vision feeds the user and business goals. They provide the umbrella for the product goals, and a product goal provides the context for sprint goals. And so if the product goal, so for me, a sprint goal or sprint goals are dependent on a product goal. Right? A sprint goal is a step towards a product goal. So if the product goal is no longer valid, maybe because the market has changed significantly, or because you find you need to pivot, for instance, that could be for while you're building a brand new product, or you've just launched it and you need to pivot. You say, like YouTube did, from being a dating website to a video sharing platform. So your product goal has been invalidated. Therefore, your sprint goal probably doesn't make sense anymore either, and then it probably would be the right thing to cancel the current sprint.
Yeah, thanks for that, Roman. So one question, so in your mind, how do you see product owner managing budgets for the product or feature which is built?
Oh, cool, great question. So I'm not sure that it's possible. Well, I'm not sure that I've got, or it might be possible. I'm not sure I've got a good answer for individual features. I think it makes more sense to tie a budget to a product goal or a series of product goals. I think for a product goal, so a product goal, I'd say, should generate a specific benefit or outcome, some specific value. So say it's the product goal we're talking about should allow us to build an MVP, then I'd ask, okay, the MVP is the what? It's an initial offering, but why? What's the value that the MVP should offer? And it could be, well, acquire an initial user community, or maybe even start generating revenue from a business perspective, and from a user perspective, or help me become aware of my main eating habits. So that will be the desired benefits that sort of are associated with this goal, or really should be captured by that goal. And so for that, I think we can then say, we can say, okay, what budget is necessary in order to achieve that goal and offer an MVP? And then we can say, well, is that a wise decision for us as a business? Would we get enough value out of that MVP, given that's the amount of money we're spending? And plus, do we have the budget for it? And as I said, sometimes it makes even more sense to attach a budget to a product roadmap. And it's one of the reasons why I tend to suggest to look at the 12 months and align product roadmaps with financial years, because that can help you with a budget allocation and acquiring a budget if that's what you have to do. And so I would expect that a Scrum product owner has a budget for the current fiscal year, right? And that's based on the product roadmap, and the product roadmap is based on a validated product strategy.
And maybe a follow-up question from mine. What do you think is a healthy product roadmap? Is it like with a budget allocated at least for an year or so? Is that what you call it, a healthy pipeline?
Yeah, so I mean, I think most companies operate when it comes to budgeting on an annual basis, and that's at least my impression. Not that I've worked for every company on this planet, but that seems to be very common. And so businesses have to make decisions about which capabilities, which products and service do they invest in, and how much money. And again, usually those decisions are made on an annual basis. And so I would expect that product people who have a budget, acquire that budget, get that budget once a year. And if I was the head of product, or if I was, I don't know, the CEO, I'd like to know why I should invest a certain amount of money in a specific product. And I'd like to hear what are the specific benefits that product would offer us in order to make sure that we spend the money wisely. And this is where I feel a product roadmap comes in. It's really handy, because I've got these specific, tangible, measurable product goals on there. And I can say, yeah, that's the value that we'll be creating, both for the users and for the business. That's why we need X amount of money.
Thank you. Maybe one last question that if you can take, what advice would you give for a product owner of a startup? What should be the first steps?
Yeah, nice question. So the key challenge, or maybe the most important challenge that I've seen startup product owners face is empowerment. Now, it's also a very common challenge in big companies, but in startups, to a certain extent, I feel it's even worse, because you have the founder or the founders, and often the founders initially exercise product ownership, and often that there's only one product when a business is founded. And so the founder or the founders would own that product. And what the founders then have to learn to do is really give the product owner the decision-making power over that product, and in a way, delegate that. And that can be hard. That can be for some people really difficult. And so I've sort of met quite a few product owners in startups who were really more like product backlog managers or team leads in disguise, I'd say, project managers in disguise, rather than true product owners. So that's something to watch out for. And that's, I think, a conversation I would like to have with the founders when I go for the position in an interview, and say, like, look, so far you must have been the product owners of this product. How do you imagine handing over the decision-making authority, and what exactly should I own, and how will this work out? And and just really talk about it as honestly as you can.
Yeah, we are, I guess, 1 minute away, and thank you for your time, Roman. You have answered so many questions, and was really really knowledgeable, really intense. And thank you everyone for joining on a Friday evening to learn about product owner tips. And we would like you to invite once again Roman to have one more session if time permits for you. And then thank you once again. Next webinar we have coming up on Monday. We're talking about Scrum Guide 2020 updates. If you're interested, you can join for that webcast. For more details, you can go to our website, tryScrum.com/webcast. Thank you, everyone. Thanks again, Roman.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thanks, Arun.
Thank you, Roman. Thanks for your time. Really appreciate it.
It's a pleasure. Nice meeting you.
Same here. Yeah.